Thank you everybody for coming. This is probably our most highly awaited product launch in Quandri's history. Most of the agencies that we talk to across the US, one of their most painful problems is requoting, the amount of time that they spend on that and what that does to their business and their clients and their staff. So we're really excited to be sharing this product with everybody because we think this is going to be making a massive impact on agencies across the US. So for today, you've got myself as host, co-founder and CEO of Quandri. We have Kenny Lauren from our team, who is the lead product manager on this process, the mastermind behind creating the AI requoting product. And then joining us from who you'll be hearing the most from, and who you guys are probably most excited to hear from, is going to be Jordan Smith. Jordan is a VP and CIO at the Hartwell Coorporation. Jordan has been part of our innovation program, actually working with us to build out this product. So he's been very impactful on the direction of the product and how it actually works. So we wanted to bring Jordan on because he's got a great perspective on how technology can impact and help your agency. He's been with this product from the ground floor, helping build it out, and can really speak to the impact that he sees it having on his business. So Jordan, thank you very much for joining us. And if you don't mind, it'd be great to just get a brief intro and background of yourself, and then I'll speak to Quandri for a few minutes, then we'll jump into a Q&A.
Awesome. Happy to be here. As you said, I'm Jordan Smith. I'm with the Hartwell Coorporation. I've been with Hartwell for over 18 years. I'm the current CIO, so I manage all the technology for our agency. So we're an employee-owned agency with 4 offices in Idaho, 3 over by Boise and 1 in Idaho Falls. So we mainly do commercial lines. We've got a pretty good sized book of personal lines. And so we've been looking for products that help us meet specific pain points or bottlenecks in our processes. And Quandri was one that fit the bill for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan. So let's jump into that here in a second. Before we jump to that piece, need to do the obligatory plug of Quandri. For those of you that don't know what Quandri is, what we're building is a renewal intelligence platform. So what that means is really building technology around the renewal process to save your team significant amounts of time where they can then repurpose that time to drive better client experience, sell more insurance, evaluate more risk, effectively do the things that agents are supposed to be doing, that you want your agents to be doing, not just moving data in and around the background. So what Quandri allows you to do is really to scale a best-in-class renewal process without throwing teams of people at that problem. We do that by analyzing the policy and segmenting it, by now quoting different policy options, and then by being able to communicate that information directly out to your end clients, all without your team needing to be involved in that process, so they can focus on the clients where they can have the largest impact in that renewal process. Some of our requoting early adopters, of which Jordan and Hartwell is part of, but these are a few of the other agencies that were early in utilizing this product and helping us build this out. So let's now jump to your experience, Jordan, of working with Quandri and of really understanding sort of some of the challenges and problems that you've been facing and why this made sense for you. What I want to start with, however, is something that I think is pretty interesting about your business. You guys just celebrated, what was it, 25 years of being employee owned, something like that, which is pretty amazing. We were talking about this last week, and I found that both very unique from agencies that I talked to. So would just like you to speak to that a little bit, sort of why that's important to you all and what this milestone means to you for your business.
Yeah, happy to. We are an employee-owned agency. So we actually started in 1963, and then the owners created the ESOP in the end of 99. And then in 2012, we became 100% employee-owned. And then we just celebrated 25 years of being employee owned this last August. So what that means is every employee can act like an owner. So if you're an owner of the company, you want to take better care of your clients. You want to go the extra mile because you're invested in the future and the profits of the company. So that really helps us strive for our culture and getting our employees on board quickly. So it's been a fantastic approach for our company.
Yeah, I believe it. Did you notice a difference from before you were 100% employee owned to afterwards? Was there a marked difference that you could tell in the business when you crossed that milestone?
If you look at the Hartwell from even when I started in
Mm,
2007 to today, it's a completely different company. Just everyone really appreciates the values that we have. We've got 5 values, and everyone strives to follow those each month. And anytime someone feels that we're doing something that isn't part of our values, there's an open dialogue about why we're making the decisions we're doing, and everyone feels like they're a team member and their voice is heard.
mm. Yeah, I love that. There's like innovation can take many forms, right? It can be innovation can mean technology, which is I think what people often associate innovation with, but it can also be very different things like what you guys are doing with your ownership structure, which I'm sure drives ownership, buy-in, the really desire to go the extra mile. So I think that's really, really cool. So good for you guys, Jordan. What I want to shift to now is talking a little bit more about Hartwell and the business. So let's, go back a few months before you started working with Quandri and really looking to improve your requoting process. What were some of the biggest challenges overall that you had as a business, either requoting or otherwise?
So we've really been looking at ways that we could take advantage of new technology to really help our team. So we had success with a direct bill reconciliation product. And so we thought, how can we apply taking advantage of AI to different departments? So what we did is we looked at each department and decided what was the bottlenecks, what takes the most time in that
Mm,
department. So for personal lines, quoting takes a lot of time, especially with the hard market the past couple of years. They were quoting anywhere from 50 to 60% of the book
wow.
manually all the time. And so that's like tens of hours a week just in requoting process. And it really hurt the team because they didn't have the opportunity or time to touch every account all the time and really know the clients because they were spending so much time on quoting. And so we identified that as a big bottleneck for them and started looking at options on ways to make that better.
That is a pretty massive amount of time, 50 to 60% of policies requoting that on a regular basis. When you did the analysis, how much time per quote were they spending?
On average, they spend anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how complex the account was.
Right. Wow. So 50, call it 50, 60% of policies, hour to an hour and a half on each of those policies just to
Mhm.
get the quote.
Yeah, just to get the quote. And so if you're spending all of that time requoting, you don't have time to build those relationships with all the other accounts. And so
Mm.
they were really in a reactive position because they were just constantly trying to stay ahead of it and they could never get ahead to be that to build those great relationships with all of our clients.
So that 50, 60%, that was what they were actually quoting,
Mhm.
right? Okay. So those were the clients that were calling in and demanding a quote. So they were doing the quote for that 50 to 60%. And then any sort of proactive quoting they weren't doing, or were they doing some of that was proactive, some of that was reactive? How did that work?
It was a mix of both. So when the download comes into Epic, the renewal download, it'll tell you on an activity how big of increase the percentage of premium was from last year to this year. And so we set parameters up on what would qualify or what we're seeing in the market that would qualify for remarket. So once
Mm.
those activities were generated, we could say, hey, this one's 35%, this one's 40%. And so we need to go in and market those. And then of course you get the call-ins that say I want my stuff remarketed. Some clients do want things remarketed every year, so it's just about getting familiar with those accounts.
That much time spent on requoting, not able to get to a lot of the other stuff that your team wanted to get to. What did that actually mean for you in terms of the service you were able to give, the experience for your staff, these types of things?
When you're spending that much time on a bottleneck process, your staff constantly feel burdened or overworked because they can't get through all of the things that they want to do. They want to reach out for the clients proactively and make those touch points, really learn the account so that we're getting the right exposures on them. And when you're not able to have enough time to do all of that, so it becomes a burden on the staff. They worry a lot. And from a relationship standpoint, too, if you're being more proactive, you can get out and your clients appreciate that more. They're not going to be as willing to go shop another agency if they see you're doing the work.
Do you have any actual numbers on that difference? For example, if you are being proactive and getting to your clients before them needing to call in and preventing them from shopping, what that means for your retention rate, for example, as opposed to if you are taking a more reactive approach. That sounds like it's a better thing for your business, but I'm curious if you've been able to quantify that at all.
I haven't ran the numbers to quantify it, but I'd say that if you're really being proactive on the accounts instead of always being reactive on putting out the fires, you're definitely going to have higher retention rates.
I want to come back to what you just said there, Jordan, because I think it's an interesting point. I talk to hundreds of agencies and talking to agencies all the time. And there is a contingent of agencies out there who think if I touch more policies, I will induce clients to shop more and thereby lower my retention rate. And what you're saying is you provide more of a proactive service, you deliver that good service on renewal, you drive up a higher retention rate. But there are people who think otherwise, that if they touch more policies, it's a trigger in that client's mind that they have a renewal, and then that induces shopping, and then that drives down retention. Why do you think otherwise?
I think it's really if the client knows that you're taking good care of them, they understand you're an independent agency, you've got all these markets available. And if they can see, if you have that touch point before, they say, hey, I've looked at your account, you're with the best carrier for you right now, or hey, we've marketed to all these carriers. Maybe the current one's still the cheapest. Maybe it's not. Let's move over to this other one. If they see that you're doing that part for them, they're less likely to go look at another option.
Yeah, so really showing them that you are doing the work proactively is really what you guys are trying to do, right? You
Right.
can't control the market, but you're trying to show them that you are in their corner and you are going to bat for them before they need to pick up the phone and call you that their premium's going up by 30%. Well, I appreciate you digging into that a little bit, Jordan. So you guys recognized that you had some initial success with an AI product, identified other areas in your business, requoting specifically in personal lines is the area you wanted to tackle next with AI. What was then your decision process for actually figuring out what to do about it, who to do that with?
We looked at products. It wasn't just an AI feature we were looking for. Well, it was a big component of it, but we knew we couldn't just replace the rater. Like even though we weren't having as great success, like there's still a lot of cleanup with Epic quotes. We knew if you went to just another rater, you were still having to go in and do that manual process at the end to actually get the quote from the carrier. And so we were looking for a product that kind of did the whole picture and completed the whole process. So after we did a few meetings with Quandri about some of their other products, and they started talking about this one, what really piqued our interest is how it goes in. It does the comparative rater, and then it goes into these specific carriers and finishes the quote for you, and then is able to relay that information into Epic so that it's waiting there for your team so that they can be more proactive.
Mm. Yeah, and just for clarity, what the product does there is it actually finishes it in the carrier portal. So we'll do the comparative rater initially and then go into the carrier portal and do the additional manual work that agencies are needing to do. So that portion of it was a very critical factor for you guys, Jordan.
Definitely. Because you're looking to
Yeah.
save the most time. And that was the quoting process for personal lines is what takes up the most time out of all the
Mm.
processes that they do or the workflows.
Yeah. Yeah. And then actually the actual carrier portal aspect was a very significant time component of that workflow.
Right. Because when you do the comparative rater, it spits out some numbers, but they're not always accurate. And so you still have to go into each carrier or one or two of them and actually finish the quote to see what the premium actually is.
So you talked to Quandri, realized that the solution that we were proposing made a lot of sense to you guys, but it was obviously very early in that process, right? At that point, we were launching an innovation program. What an innovation program is for Quandri is really where we work with a small group of forward-thinking agencies who will not only get early access to the product, but they will also help shape it. Their feedback and contribution helps build that product so that it works well for agencies and it understands all of the nuances and specific workflow configurations. So that's really where Jordan and Hartwell came on board. And I'm curious what made you want to do that, Jordan? Because it's one thing to see the product and say, this could be really good for us at some point in the future, but to actually want to put your hand up and say, I want to be involved in this and contribute to it. What made you want to be part of that program?
I appreciated the opportunity to be part of the process to shape it for other agencies. So it was more comfortable for us to be in early and kind of explain our workflows, explain what we would like to see, how we think it would work, either when it's pulling information or coming back to Epic, so that it works for us and fits into our model.
Mm. What gave you the confidence to work with Quandri on that, knowing that we didn't have a product for it at that time? Like, what gave you the confidence that working with us, that we'd be able to build it, be able to figure it out?
I think a lot with a lot of AI products right now, like if you look at the last 6 months, there are so many that are launching for the insurance industry and for all business really. And it's about finding the one that fits your specific needs. And so if you
Mm.
identify those bottlenecks and pick and choose what's going to save your team the most time, you're really just freeing your team up to build better relationships with your clients. And so it's in the future, I really see AI doing all the heavy lifting of all that manual, tedious. They're not replacing people, but they're doing all that manual, tedious processing work. And your team can focus on building relationships.
So it sounds like for you, it was really the specificity of it, in that you were looking to solve a very specific problem, and we were approaching it by solving a very specific problem. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's actually, I think that's something that I think there are pros and cons to that, and that's something that, we at Quandry have tried to be very specific about, is knowing what very specific problem we can solve and being very intentional about only solving that problem and not trying to be everything to every agency. And for us, that's personal lines renewals, of which requoting was a very big component. But I think there are lots of companies that try to do, you try to do everything. And what that means is that you can do everything, but you don't do everything well, versus picking a few specific areas that you can be best in the world and really nailing that. What was the decision process around moving forward, Jordan? So, you found the problem, met with Quandry, looked like you had a good solution for it. What else did you need to do to be comfortable to moving ahead with this? Was there, did you need to build out a business case? Was there more work that you needed to do around this before you could give it the thumbs up?
It was a pretty easy sell to the rest of management team. Actually, we'd had such good success with that other product on the direct bill reconciliation that they were more open to looking at other AI options. And it's a big buzzword right now with a lot of management
Mm.
teams, right? CEOs are always saying, get me AI. And they don't understand you can't just find an AI to do everything for you right now. So you have to pick and choose which pieces you're trying to fit in there. So with this product, it was an easy sell to bring like, hey, look, this is the problem the team's having. If we were able to solve this problem, look how much time they would have to really do touch points with all of our clients. And this really fit the bill for us. So we were excited to move forward.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So you guys moved ahead, worked through the innovation program. And as I understand it, they're now seeing, early quotes coming through, and seeing some of that work in your system. So what has been the early impression, early feedback so far that you've seen from the product?
We're really excited about the potential of it. The implementation process has been really smooth for us. We do weekly meetings with the team, kind of explaining our workflow, how we're doing it now, how Quandri can kind of replicate that, or if we need to make adjustments. So it's been a fun process to kind of go through and build that.
Yeah, and where do you see this really impacting your business, Jordan? Like, now that you've seen some of the results come out of the product, do you expect the product to hit the business case that you anticipated at the beginning?
Yeah, totally. If we're moving in the right direction, so once we fully release it on all of the activity download activities, and it starts requoting most of the book for us, it's going to save our team vast amounts of time.
What is what is the impression or feedback from the frontline staff of having a solution like this? Is this something they're scared of, excited about? How are they feeling about this?
They're super excited. Not everyone likes to go in and manually quote everything in
Mm.
each carrier, or even if you're using a rater, you still have to go in and finish it. So they're excited not to have to do that manual process anymore and actually just have the quotes sitting there and then easy for them to review and go through and update as needed.
Mm. Is that was that something that you needed to do any work around? And I'll tell you why I'm asking. Like what I hear sometimes from, agency owners is that, they're concerned about how their staff is going to feel about rolling out AI in different pieces of the business and wanting to make sure that it's not coming to take their jobs and that sort of thing. What I found in practice is that producers, CSRs, admin staff doing this kind of work, most of them are so underwater that they're not concerned about it coming to take their job. They're so thankful that there's going to be something that is going to be doing that work for them that then allows them to do the work they really want to do. That's been my experience with it. Haven't seen much fear around it from people working within agencies. But curious with you, you've rolled out, it sounds like, another AI product in another area of your business. Now this is another one that you're rolling out. Have you experienced that at all? Is that something that you've had to be intentional about how you roll that out with your team?
I think it's worth a discussion with the team. Obviously, there can be fear out there. They fear AI is gonna just take over all of their jobs and they're gonna be unemployed within a year. But you got to really explain that it's the way that they're piecing it together and how it fits all of your specific needs in all of the departments is there to do that heavy lifting on all of that tedious processing work so that you have time to focus on relationships. And I really see that over the next couple of years as agencies evolve to take on more technology is the AI is going in, it's doing the coding, it's doing the policy checks, it's adding things back into Epic for you. And your main job is just the relationships with the clients.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really the future that we see as well, right? You've got the AI doing the work for your team, and it enables your team to have more conversations and better
Mm-hmm.
quality conversations because all that information is there at their fingertips. The book is being segmented, so you're pushing the right clients to them. They need to come in, they pick up the phone, they're talking to the clients they need to talk to that day. They're making the decisions, they're providing the advice, but they're not doing all the, manual grunt work in the background that is needed to actually have those conversations. One more question for you, Jordan, just before we flip to the demo. What has been your experience overall using AI? There are agency owners know they need to use it. A lot are unsure of where to take first steps with it. What has been your experience overall, and what would you say to people that know they need to use this technology but aren't quite sure of where to start?
I'd say look at your business processes and identify those bottlenecks that you're trying to solve, and then look at the different tools that are available and find one that fits your specific needs. Obviously, with any AI, you need to have proper security in place. You need to make sure what they're doing with the data so that you're still being compliant in the various states. But it's definitely worth going in and trying to have AI solve some of these problems for you because the world is changing. And just as we were discussing a second ago, you don't want to hire 10, 15 people today and then have to worry about their jobs in the future.
Mm,
If you can use AI and start using AI now and then keep the current staff, but increase because AI is doing all that hard work, increase your number of clients in the future with the same number of staff.
yeah, really looking in the software world, the metric we use for that is ARR per FTE, right? Revenue per FTE, which sounds like it's the same way that you're thinking about things of how to drive efficiency and drive more productivity with the same number of people and using AI to bridge the gap between more revenue and same productivity, which is, very similar to how we think about our business right now. I often say, insurance agencies were the original SaaS companies, the original subscription businesses, and then software just borrowed the business model. Great. Well, I appreciate you answering these questions, Jordan. We're gonna flip over now to the demo. So I see Kenny here has come on camera. Kenny, take it away.
Perfect. Sounds great. Thank you, Jackson. Yeah, before I start sharing my screen, yeah, Jordan, just wondering for the attendees, if you don't mind, just if you can just walk us through a little bit more step by step. What was the requoting process you had prior to looking at Quandri?
So prior to it, we would see the download come in, we'd get the activity that said, yes, this one should be remarketed. It's 40% increase or whatever it is. And we looked at the claims on it to make sure there wasn't any open ones. And we'd go into Epic Rater, we'd start the quote process in there. It would come out with the rates for the various carriers. And then we'd start going into the top 3 or 4 and opening those carrier portals and finishing the quotes in there just to make sure the quotes were accurate. Once we had the updated quotes, we would put them back into Epic to save. And then the one that you were presenting to the client, you'd make a proposal and send it over to them.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. So I'm just going to share my screen here. And so for those who haven't seen Quandri yet, this is our policies screen, but the workflow for Quandri starts much the way Jordan just described it. So whenever policies download into Epic, we trigger off of an activity that gets created on the download, and that's the start of the process for us as well. There is a difference between which policies get reviewed with our policy checking product and which ones get requoted, where you can set specific criteria around which policies you want to have requoted. Yeah, Jordan, I know we already talked about it earlier, but yeah, if you don't just mind reminding the crowd here, what were the triggers that you set up for which policies you want requoted by Quandri?
So I think we have the activity set right now. It's pretty high. We have it set at 35% increase, just while we're going through this setup phase. And then as we roll it out across all of our book, we'll lower that down so we can pick up more requotes.
Got it. Sounds great. Yeah, and so this is the list of policies that Quandri reviewed on this policies screen. This is demo data. This is not from Jordan's agency. You'll just see some fake data here. And so based on what the Quandri product did, you'll either see a different status on whether the next step in the workflow is to review an email that was generated to send to the client, or whether a quote was generated and you can review the quote. And so this screen here, you can filter by who the policy is assigned to. So if we just wanted to look at Emma, who's our account manager or CSR, you can just look at Emma's policies. And so if I take a look at this account right here, and I say I want to review the quote, this screen will show you what quotes came back that were automatically quoted by Quandri. And so just to quickly show here, this top graph is the premium for each line of business. And so you have your current carrier on the left-hand side, and then we do show the next top 3 carriers that came back to provide a quote. And you can toggle between showing the combined premium between the different lines of business, or you can see each individual line of business as well. So that's the premium comparison at the top. When you scroll down here, you'll see a coverage comparison. And so this is providing a quick overview in a table around what are the different coverages that each carrier quoted on. And we tried to make it very visual where you can see if there's a specific limit that might be lower than what other people offered, or if there's a deductible that is higher than what other carriers were offering. Yeah, Jordan, anything specific you would call out that's been useful to call out to the frontline staff on the differences between quotes in the coverage comparison?
I'd say this screen is very helpful for us being able to quickly compare the different quotes against the current coverage. I know our quality control person is very set on doing, he calls them mirror tests to make sure you're offering apples to apples each year. And so this is a quick way to be able to see that you're offering the same coverages.
Awesome, thank you. And so similar to up here where we have the different lines of business, you can see the coverage comparison for property and auto as well. And so we know that within some coverages, it's important to maintain a minimum standard for your clients. Within the quoting process in our product, you can set, these are the minimum limits that we want to have for certain coverages. Yeah, Jordan, I don't know if that's something else you want to speak to. What were some of the standards that you set for the Hartwell?
Yeah, part of that process, he sent over an Excel table and we were able to put our agency minimum limits on it. So just the minimum limits that we've elected to write as an agency to make sure our clients are protected. So they were able to put those in so that when our quotes come through, it's at least matching our minimum limits for the accounts that don't have those yet. And then if the client already has higher limits, then it would match those.
Awesome. Thank you for walking us through that, Jordan. If an agent is coming in here, they can review the premium comparison, they can take a look at the coverages, and their action really at the end here is to select the carrier that you want to recommend to the customer. You'll notice that moves this little recommended icon to the one that you do want to put forward to the customer. And so once you select the recommended carrier, then you would go to the next step of clicking generate email, which goes into our last product, which automates the generation of the email to the customer. So I won't be demoing that today, but that wraps up everything we wanted to show on what the output of the quoting product is. Yeah, anything else, Jordan, that you want to highlight or speak to on this slide? Or
I would say it's very helpful to the team to have something visual like this. I know Epic, or this last spring in Applied Epic, they developed a tool that when the download comes in, they'll generate this PDF the next day that kind of shows you a comparison. And this is like a more advanced version of that, because it shows you a lot more detail on here than just what the one in Epic that generates.
yeah, and I guess as you bring up Epic, that is one other point that is worth bringing out. So this is the output within the Quandri platform. However, we do also add similar data to an Epic activity note. So we add a note to the activity that essentially highlights the premium breakdown of the top 3 carriers that came back. It doesn't have the same level of detail to cover the coverage comparison, just based on how much room we have within an Epic note, but it does act as that a bit of a compliance marker that you have gone out and requoted the policy and that work was done.
Jordan, thank you very much for coming and being a part of the webinar. I think this has been very valuable for everybody that attended. So thank you very much for being part of the webinar, Jordan. And thank you as well for being part of the innovation program and helping to create and actually bring this product and bring this solution to agencies, because it is a huge pain point for so many agencies. So appreciate you being a part of it, Jordan, and helping to solve one of the biggest problems for agencies today. Any final last words or advice, Jordan, for people looking to, use AI, solve problems in their requoting process? Anything you'd leave people with?
Just don't be afraid to look at options. So explore what's out there and find the best need that fits your agency.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for attending, everybody. Take care.